The old stone fountain stood at the heart of Blackwood University. It was ancient, crumbling, forgotten by most, but not by those who knew its true nature. Water trickled from its moss-covered spouts. The sound was like hushed whispers in the night. Students passed by, oblivious to its dark history. They didn't know the secrets it held. Ivy clung to the weathered stone, hiding intricate carvings, symbols of a forgotten time, of rituals long abandoned, or so they thought. The water in the basin was always murky. No one ever saw the bottom. Some swore they saw things moving beneath the surface, but they never looked twice. At night, the fountain took on a different character. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. Campus security avoided it after dark. They never spoke about why. Students who stayed out too late hurried past, their hearts racing for reasons they couldn't explain. The fountain waited, patient, hungry. Legends circulated among the students, tales of disappearances, of strange occurrences. But they were just stories, right? No one really believed them, until they experienced it themselves. The fountain had stood for centuries. It would stand for centuries more, waiting, always waiting. Sarah was late for class, again. She rushed across the quad, her bag bouncing against her hip. That's when she saw him, standing by the fountain. Their eyes met. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. His eyes were dark, bottomless, like the water in the fountain. "Hello, Sarah," he said. She hadn't told him her name. Sarah blinked. When she opened her eyes, the stranger was gone, but the chill remained. Sarah couldn't shake the encounter. It haunted her. She saw shadows everywhere, in the corners of lecture halls, at the edges of her vision, always there, always watching. Her friends noticed the change, but she couldn't explain it to them. The hallways of Blackwood seemed different now, longer, darker. The lights flickered more often. Sometimes Sarah swore she heard footsteps behind her, but when she turned, no one was there. Just empty corridors stretching into darkness. Sleep became elusive. Sarah's dreams were filled with whispers, with dark eyes and cryptic symbols. She'd wake up gasping, sheets drenched in sweat. The fountain called to her, but she resisted. She knew somehow that it was dangerous. Her grades began to slip. Professors asked if everything was all right. Sarah nodded and smiled. But inside she was screaming. The stranger's words echoed in her mind. "I've been waiting for you. What did it mean? And why couldn't she forget?" Professor Blackwood was new to the university. He taught an obscure subject, folklore and mysticism. Sarah hadn't planned on taking his class, but something drew her to it. Perhaps answers, perhaps more questions. The professor was tall, gaunt. His eyes seemed to look right through you. When he spoke, the class fell silent. His words had power. They painted pictures of dark rituals, of ancient beings, of sacrifices made in the name of knowledge. Sarah felt a connection to the material, as if she'd known it all along. The professor noticed her interest. He asked her to stay after class one day. "You have a gift," he said. His voice was familiar, but Sarah couldn't place it. He offered her private tutoring, a chance to delve deeper into the subject. Sarah hesitated. Every instinct told her to refuse, but curiosity won out. She agreed. Little did she know she was stepping into a web, one that had been spun long ago. Section 5. Secrets of the Library. The university library was vast, labyrinthine. Sarah spent hours there researching, digging, looking for answers she didn't even know she needed. The stacks seemed to go on forever. Books on every subject imaginable, and some that weren't. One night she stumbled upon a hidden section. The books here were old, ancient, their spines cracked and faded. Sarah reached for one. It felt warm to the touch, alive. She opened it. The symbols inside matched those on the fountain. Her heart raced as she read tales of a dark presence on campus, of students gone missing, of a price paid in blood and souls. The university's history was darker than she'd ever imagined, and at the center of it all, the fountain. Sarah lost track of time. When she looked up, the library was dark, empty. She was alone. Or was she? Footsteps echoed in the distance, getting closer. Sarah clutched the book to her chest and ran. Section 6. The Forgotten Dormitory. Rumours circulated about Blackwood Hall, the oldest dormitory on campus. It had been closed for years, officially for renovations, but no work was ever done. Students whispered about strange noises, lights in empty windows. Some swore it was haunted. Sarah found herself drawn to it. Night after night she'd stand outside, looking up at its dark windows. One night she saw a figure, watching her. It raised a hand, beckoning. Before she knew it, Sarah was inside. The air inside was thick, musty. Shadows danced on the walls. Sarah's flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper, abandoned furniture, and symbols, the same ones from the fountain, from the book. She climbed the stairs, each step creaking under her weight. The figure had been on the top floor. Sarah's hand trembled as she reached for the doorknob. It turned easily, too easily, as if someone was expecting her. Section 7. Echoes from the past. The room was a time capsule, untouched for decades. Dust covered everything, but one thing stood out. A journal, open on the desk, as if waiting for her. Sarah approached cautiously. The pages were filled with frantic scribbles. She began to read. The journal belonged to a student, Emma, from 50 years ago. She wrote of dark rituals, of sacrifices at the fountain, of a presence that haunted the campus, that fed on the students' fear and pain. Emma had discovered the truth, but at a cost. The last entry was a warning. Don't trust the professors, don't trust anyone. The fountain is the key, but it's also the lock. I'm sorry, I couldn't stop it. Maybe you can. Sarah's hands shook as she closed the journal. She turned to leave, but the door was closed, locked, and she wasn't alone anymore. A figure stood in the shadows, waiting, just like at the fountain. Section 8. The Midnight Ritual. Sarah learned the truth, but knowledge came at a price. The stranger, Professor Blackwood, revealed everything. The university was built on dark foundations, fed by sacrifice, by fear. The fountain was a portal, a gateway to something ancient, something hungry. Every year a student was chosen to feed the darkness, to keep it at bay. This year it was Sarah. She had been marked from the beginning, the chance encounter, the whispers, the dreams, all part of the ritual. They led her to the fountain at midnight. Robed figures surrounded her, chanting in a language she didn't understand, but somehow knew. The water in the fountain bubbled, turned black as ink. Sarah could see faces in its depths, screaming, pleading. She knew she should be afraid, but a strange calm washed over her. This was her destiny, her purpose. As they lowered her into the water, Sarah smiled. She was becoming part of something greater, something eternal. Section 9. Unveiling the Truth. But fate had other plans. As Sarah sank into the darkness, something changed. The chanting faltered. The robed figures looked around in confusion. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Sarah felt power coursing through her veins. She emerged from the fountain, but she wasn't Sarah anymore. She was something else, something more. The darkness had chosen her, not as a sacrifice, but as a vessel. The robed figures fell to their knees in fear, in worship. Sarah, or what used to be Sarah, looked at them with new eyes. She saw their true forms, withered, ancient, feeding off the energy of countless sacrifices, but their time was over. A new era had begun. With a wave of her hand, the robed figures crumbled to dust. The fountain cracked, split open, releasing centuries of trapped souls. The university trembled, its dark foundations shaken. Sarah smiled. The real cleansing was about to begin. Section 10. The Final Revelation. As dawn broke, Blackwood University stood silent, empty. Students and faculty had fled in the night, driven out by nightmares. Only one remained. Emma, the girl from the journal. She wasn't a ghost, not exactly. She had become a guardian, watching over the university, waiting for the one who could break the cycle. And now she stood before Sarah. Two beings of immense power, past and present colliding. "You did it," Emma said, her voice echoing across time. "You broke the curse, but at what cost?" Sarah looked at her hands. Dark energy crackled between her fingers. She had saved the university, but lost herself in the process. As the sun rose higher, Sarah made her choice. She would rebuild, create something new from the ashes of the old. A place of true learning, of light, but always with the knowledge that darkness lurks beneath, waiting, watching, for the cycle to begin anew.